Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I guess the denim craze of last week spilled over into this week because I have made 2 more denim tote bags and I have plans for a third one. I have been playing with Rit Dye. Earlier on today I got some scraps of denim. I got some white ones, white scrap, very light blue and some darker blue pieces, and I put them in a fuchsia dye bath. So they are currently in the washer on a quick wash just to get the excess dye out of them. And then I'm going to stick them in the dryer because I want to use them very, very soon. Very excited about trying this out. So I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I'll show you what I made this week. It was a light work week, which was awesome. I did have to go and get a Holter monitor from a place downtown to wear for 24 hours because I'm still getting the palpitations, and I don't know if it's just a menopause thing or if it's something else, but I wore it. I was a good girl. I wore it for 24 hours, took it back. I don't know if my doctor is going to have it in time for Tuesday. I happen to be seeing him on Tuesday about something else, a minor thing, and it's a long weekend. So the chances are he may not have the results by then. I'm hoping they work fast. So you might remember, if you were here last time, that I said I had been to the emergency room last week just to get my heart rate checked. So today I have a Holter monitor on for 24 hours, and I did a workout once I got home with the weights, and I also am going for a walk, which I needed to do anyway, but I thought I would see if that sparked any extra activity. So yeah, I thought I'd shake things up a bit by including some steps in my walk. So I'm going down these steps and then I'm going to come back up them and we'll see how that feels. I'll turn you around and you can see the steps. It's a beautiful day. It's not too hot today. I think maximum is supposed to be 17. We had tons of rain yesterday. If only it had lasted a week. Anyway, these are the steps I'm going to go down. And then I am going to come back up them. What you have to do is you keep a diary so that they know that you did something strenuous and it wasn't just your heart freaking out on its own. So here goes. Now it's time to go back up. Apart from that, everything's great. And I have been having fun with my denim. So the first one I made for this week was a fairly understated one. It is a patchwork denim bag, but it's still fairly understated because it's just denim, nothing else. Different shades. I think, yeah, I cut 5 3/4 inch squares because I knew my seam allowance would be 3/8 of an inch or a centimeter. So 5 3/4 inch squares. Just did, how many of them? Hang on a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 by 4. 16 squares to the front, 16 squares to the back. Boxed my bottoms at 3 inches as usual, so you can still see part of the squares that were on that very bottom corner. Basic black webbing, and then the inside, I'll turn it inside out so you can have a proper look. It's also the same amount of squares and same size of squares as the outside. And I used up some of my brown fabrics, which I wasn't particularly loving. So there's an owl fabric in there, there's a wildlife fabric, And also there's a couple of other random things. This one I've had that I think I made a bandana out of, and it was back in the stash and I cut it up. And these two fabrics here were ones I bought probably at least 20 years ago, because these were made into bread bags. I used to go up to the local bakery when there was still one just around the corner. And because I didn't want them to put my bread into a plastic bag, I used to take cloth bags with me, and I say, put the bread in the cloth bag. I'm sure they thought I was crazy, but I don't care, because I was happy to have my bread in a cloth bag. And then I stopped using them because I wasn't buying bread. I was making bread for a long time, and I still do that occasionally. So I cut it up, and it's been repurposed into the lining of this bag. So I love this one. This is going to be another one for Dress to Success. And actually, I noticed that they've put out a call for tote bags again. And I put a little note on the Facebook group saying, this is what I do for sizing: 20 by 20 inches, 3-inch squares cut out for the bottom corners, and 24-inch length strap. And the lady who I have been in touch with, who arranges to take the bags from me, she said, don't you have some tutorials on your channel? And I said, well, not a specific tutorial video, but I did find at least 3 videos where I have made tote bags, and so I put the link in the Facebook group. So if any of you have come here from the Dress to Success Facebook group, welcome! I will probably do a purely tote bag video at some point, so that if they want, they can link to my video if anyone needs a video tutorial. The other bag I made is very wacky in comparison, and I don't think they're going to want this one, and I'm going to keep this one for me because I don't think anyone else will want this one, actually. It's denim. It's a little bit nutty. So what I did is I cut a 20-inch piece of very light fusible interfacing, and I started building up this fabric. I started with a triangle of denim, and I built up strips around until I had filled the square. I didn't sew them as I went. I just laid them down, pressed, and I was hoping that the fusible interfacing would hold everything in place while I sewed it. But in the end, I had to pin it like mad because the denim was thick enough that the heat from the iron wasn't really going through and making it fuse properly, even though I flipped it over and tried to iron it from the back with a pressing cloth. So after adding all these pins, I zigzagged a whole bunch of the joins with different colored threads. I used primary colors, rainbow colors really, because I went red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And there was a couple of places where it didn't look so fantastic because the denim stretched a bit. There was one place where my sewing went a little off-piste and I didn't quite catch both sides. And so there was a tiny gap where you could see through to the interfacing, which I ended up putting a dab of glue on. So anywhere that there was an oopsie, I put a button on it. And I went through all of my button drawers and I tried to pick the wackiest ones that I probably won't use on anything else. So having said that, I'll show you what it looks like. Here it is. Isn't it crazy? It is just a little bit crazy. So here's where I started, built up. And as it got bigger, I had to do like shorter pieces where the corners were. So it turned from a triangle into a hexagon, or a 6-sided polygon, not an even hexagon by any means. So I used all different shades of denim so that there was some contrast. And then I added all of these wacky buttons. Some of them cover some of the messier bits. They were very minor, really. And some of them I just added in just because I wanted it covered in buttons. That was very fun. When that was finished, that side of the bag, I had to figure out what I was going to do with the other side of the bag. I had already cut out a 20-inch square for the other side of the bag because I thought I was going to do it the same, but I decided it took too long and it wasn't working out that well. So I ended up using much bigger pieces for the back. I think I only used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only about 7 pieces, big rectangles or squares that I ironed on and then also zigzagged the edges. So because I didn't seam it, it's not too bulky, I just overlaid the pieces of denim by about 1/4 of an inch and then zigzagged to hold it all down. And then what I did with this, after I had done that with the big pieces, I added a couple of pockets. And I actually really, really love this side of the bag. In fact, I think I prefer this side of the bag. So it's big patches. And then these pockets I found in my pocket stash that still had some fabric around them. So there's a little one there and a bigger one there. And I just went around with yellow thread twice, not worrying about trying to do it exactly over it a second time. It was deliberately messy. So I don't know if you can see that there are different colored threads zigzagging these bits together. I used the green on the back. It was fun using all these different colored threads. I've been using quite a lot of neutrals lately. But I went for yellow for the last bit, including the top stitching, because I decided to use this for the lining. Now, I have to tell you, these bags, they grow organically, shall we say. I don't plan them out ahead of time, usually. So I didn't know I was going to use yellow fabric for the lining until I did. So the inside is a rather lovely ombre effect yellow. I used a darker part of the fabric on that side and the lighter part of the fabric on that side. It wasn't a huge piece, so I had to be picky about what I cut. And then the handles turned out to be dark and light. And I put a small amount of woven interfacing into the handles. So I cut the pieces 4 by 24, as I usually do. And then after I had done the folding in, I opened it back out again and I put a 2-inch by 24-inch piece of interfacing right down the middle and then ironed it all together again. And it makes a nice handle. It feels strong enough compared to the rest of the bag. It doesn't feel too flimsy. And this one, I did not box the bottoms at all because, mainly, because I had put the buttons on. And there is quite a large button down there that you probably didn't notice because it's so dark. But it's rather close to the corner. The reason it's there is that there is a join here between 2 strips, which I did not sew over. And so I put the button over the top of it. So rather than fight with the buttons, I just left it as a completely flat bag. But yeah, I don't think this is quite sophisticated enough to donate. And whilst I know I have said before that I probably don't need any more tote bags, I think I'll keep that one unless I find someone who has an equally wacky sense of style as me. Or one of my friends sees a picture of it on Instagram or Facebook and says, "Oh, I really love that bag." And I'll be like, "Would you like it?" I love how heavy and sturdy these bags. I feel like they're just going to last for years and years, which is awesome. As I said, I've got a third one in the pipeline. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I did, uncharacteristically, pick out this piece of rather appropriately denim-y blue fabric, which is big enough to line another bag. My other thinking is that the denim pieces that I have dyed, I'm wondering about doing some applique with them. I saw someone's channel last night and I think it was called Sewing Through Fog. Yeah, I think that's what she's called, Sewing Through Fog. And she worked in the jeans industry for a really long time, for Levi. And she had a video that I was watching about how to upcycle every single part of the pair of jeans and not throw away the bits that you normally might not think were any use. And she had done some applique of different shades of denim on a denim background. And I thought, ooh, and wouldn't it be fun if you dyed some and used it to make some sort of flower pattern or something on there? So that's what I'm hoping we're going to see later in this video if it works out. I'm just going to pause this video now because I need to go and see if the wash is finished, and if so, transfer my bits of denim to the dryer. Good news, it's all in the dryer now, so I'm hoping to be able to use those bits really soon. What else have I done this week? Well, I bought myself a book. Arty Farty Annie Claxton, she has been talking about her Wreck This journal, and she has done a few of them. In fact, after I had picked this book up from the local bookstore, yes, I did not use that site that's named after a big river in South America. I actually bought it from my local bookstore. After I had seen her talk about it on a previous video, her recent video is all about what she turned this into. And honestly, I look at these pages and I think, oh yeah, there's some interesting prompts in there. I'd probably do a little bit of scribbling and be done in 5 minutes. But wow, she is such an amazing artist. She can turn something in here into an absolute work of art. I'm blown away. And she's really set the bar high now. So I'm just hoping that I can do even half as well as she did. So this is by Keri Smith, K-E-R-I, Keri Smith. And there's a few of these out. The bookstore had this one. They had one with a different cover, which I'm pretty sure had the same insides. They had a color version and they had a smaller travel version. And each page has a prompt on there to get you started in your art. So let me see. So one of the things you can start with is writing your name. And some of the options are write your name backwards, write your name very faintly, write your name using large letters. Now let me see. She has a suggested list of art supplies you might want to have handy to you. And some of the things are very wacky. For example, she suggests standing on the book. She suggests dropping it from a high building. She suggests spilling coffee on this page here. Draw fat lines and thin. Do some rubbings with a pencil. Make a funnel. So you can actually tear the pages out. You can turn one into a paper airplane. You can cut the strips for the lines that she's drawn on there and do a bit of weaving of paper strips. Pick up the journal without using your hands. There's all sorts of weird creative things to make you think differently and to maybe unblock you if you're just not knowing what to do. This one says, make prints using an ink pad and cut vegetables. So I love that this book is not meant to be kept in a pristine state. You're supposed to completely wreck it. And the interesting thing was that by the time Annie had filled one of these, it was way, way thicker because it was full of paint and folded paper and, I don't know, collages and you name it, right? She had just absolutely packed it with different kinds of art. It was massive. And she had a big thing wrapped around it to keep it all together. One of the prompts is crack the spine. I mean, you can literally, obviously, crack the spine of a book, but also you could interpret that in a different way. So I'm really looking forward to getting started on that. Not sure when that will be, because at the moment I'm still stuck in the denim sewing, but soon, another thing on the to-do list. There's been quite a bit of crochet in the last few days. One of the things I did make earlier in the week was this very exciting dishcloth. So this, I think, this was one of the drops yarns that I bought white and I dyed a few years ago. Finally got around to mostly using it up. And the reason I started this was so that I had something to do when I went out walking without Mr. Stitches. Mostly, I usually get my steps in a day either by being at work or by going for a walk with Mr. Stitches. Sometimes he's already got his steps in and he's fine, he doesn't want to go out again, or he's gone to the gym or whatever. And I like to have a little bit of something to do with my hands. So I put a little bag over my wrist and I grab a hook and some yarn. And I mostly made this during one walk. And then after I got home, I just had to finish it off with a couple more rounds. I haven't washed it yet. It's feeling a little bit stiff at the moment. Oh, I feel like I want to sneeze. It's still pollen season. We had the most beautiful rainy day a couple of days ago. It was absolutely wonderful. It was windy and wet, and it was just absolutely brilliant because it dampens all the pollen down. And those of us who have a little bit of a tickly nose are feeling mostly a lot better. Today I have a sniffle. Okay, I'm good. I'm not going to sneeze. So that, I think, is just going to get tossed in the wash, and I'm going to add that to my huge pile of dishcloths I have in my own closet because, yeah, I'm not going to add that to the festival auction pile. The other thing I've been doing, and I'm hoping to get this finished, but you might still see this finished by the end of this video. I'm not sure, but it's almost done. But I wanted to start recording this today. It's Saturday. I wanted to get as much of this done today as possible. I have a feeling that that other bag might take long enough that I'll have to finish it on Sunday and then finish this video. So maybe I'll make an effort to get this done as well. What do you think of the colors in this? Let me hold it up. Woohoo! Look at that. Isn't it amazing? Now, I think this is called some variation of granny shawl. I'm not sure exactly what the name of the pattern is. It's just like giant granny shawl or something like that. And I think it's from Annaboo's house. And she designed it for, I think it was Stylecraft. She used a Stylecraft chunky yarn, and it's free on her website or blog. And so I found it a while back, and I have actually made this pattern before. I made a much thinner version. Oh, that's right, I used the Lion Brand Heartland, so that was worsted weight or medium weight yarn. And I liked it, but I decided to give it to my sister. And so when I went over there, I think it was last year, I ended up giving her the shawl. And so because I've had this yarn left over from making the wacky, what did I call it? I can't remember what I called it. I'll have to put it under here if I look it up on Ravelry. I made this wacky sweater that was mostly this teal color, and it had this explosive pattern surface crocheted on the front. And this yarn has been sitting around now for quite some time. It's Yarn Smiths Create Chunky, or it might be Super Chunky. Again, I'll have to look at the label. It's upstairs. It's a really, really, really easy pattern. And once you've done the first couple of rows, you've memorized it and you just keep going, keep going. Each row gets longer. So I was hoping it was going to come out bigger than this, but it's really eaten up the yarn fast. And I have a feeling I've only got enough yarn for maybe a few more, like just maybe 3 more rows, perhaps. And I would really, really love it to be a lot bigger than this, but I'm going to have to just go with what I've got. A couple of the colors I'm already down to maybe 15 grams left, which is not enough to do a whole row. So I think what I'm going to do is try and finish that this weekend so I can show you a finish on that. I have a whole extra ball of this dark teal, and what's probably going to happen is as my bright colours run out, I'll probably just end up finishing with 2 or 3 rows of just the dark teal to finish the bottom edge, which is actually quite perfect. I'm happy with that. And yeah, who doesn't love working with a nice big 10mm crochet hook? That I only started 2 days ago. That's only 3 sessions of working on it. Absolutely awesome. Okay, I'm going to get off here now, and I am going to come back to you when my pink denim is out of the dryer and when I've made some progress on this next denim bag. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to build it yet. What's this little raccoon doing in my garden in daylight? Normally they're only skulking about in the dark. Mr. Stitches got a photo of 2 of them in my garden this morning. So I'm thinking maybe the other one's around somewhere. I don't know what it's doing. Finding some bugs to eat, maybe. I'm going to give you a quick flash of the beautiful result of the denim dyeing. Look at this one. This was the white denim, and it came out true to colour, a very gorgeous shade of fuchsia. And I left the seam on this. I noticed that the stitching has not dyed, so I guess that's synthetic. But I can maybe cut that piece off and use it where I might need a strip of something. I will definitely not be wasting that. It is too pretty. The next brightest is this one. This was a very light blue denim, and so it came out a little bit darker, but still a very lovely. The last pieces were all from the same pair of jeans, which was quite a dark denim, and this is what this one looks like. Very purpley. Back is pretty. You could use the back if you wanted to see a bit more pink, but I do like the purpley denim, and I did 2 pieces of that. I wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to do with one batch of dye bath, so I just did this as a last minute thing. You can see there's a bit of damage there, but that's okay. I've got a little pile of scraps of denim pieces that are falling to pieces, and I thought maybe I could make something with deliberately distressed jeans or pre-distressed jeans, but I haven't decided how that's going to look yet either. But yeah, and then the 2 pockets of that pair of jeans are a beautiful shade of purple now. They are still a little bit damp, so I'm going to go and hang them back up. I'm draping them on my dress form and over my ring light arm just to get them to finish drying, because I would like to incorporate some of this pink denim into this project. So for this bag, I'm not going to be using interfacing. I'm using fairly even weight of denim throughout. I've cut a bunch of squares and rectangles out of various jean legs from the stash, and I'm going to just piece them together until I get 2 squares that are 20 inches. I better get my little iron on because I'm going to want to probably press my seams as I go. I'll probably press them open to try and minimize some of the bulk. I'm just going to grab 2 pieces that look like they fairly match for size. Kind of match for size. Those 2 are similar. And I'll probably need to cut more pieces. I have no idea what size this is going to end up when I put this lot together, but I have tons more denim. So this piece is 20 by 20. I only had to trim a little bit back off it just to even it up. Make sure my pieces were parallel and looking good. So I'll turn off the camera while I do the second side. Seam allowances do love to have their own way. Side 2 is done. I had this big piece. I seamed these two together to fit along here, put a couple together here, and then I just needed to build up my last little bit with 3 more pieces at the bottom. So there they are, back and front. Don't know which side's going to be back and which side front at the moment, because I'm going to be embellishing them with some of this pink denim. Now I have to figure out how. I think also I will be making denim handles for this, so I'm going to cut the strips for that, sew those up while I think about my tactics for the pink. I've cut my 3-inch squares out of the bottom of this piece and this piece, and I've cut my 2 lining pieces complete with 3-inch cutouts. Rather cute, this fabric. It's a very, very tiny heart print. I like it. And I've made 2 handles. I made it the full 4 inches and made sure the raw ends were all hidden, and my machine didn't have any problem sewing through the 4 layers. It definitely makes a change, or it makes sense to use a good jeans needle. I'm using a size 90 and it's doing very well. So onto the pink stuff. So I have 3 shades, because I have the fuchsia on white, I have the fuchsia on light blue, and the fuchsia on dark blue. And what I thought I might do is do a flower, maybe cut a circle out of this one and some petals out of these 2, and then alternate them around the circle. I hope it works. I have heat and bond. It's the Ultra Hold. because I don't really want to do the zigzagging around the edge. I did that with my butterfly bag last time, but what I would prefer to do is have the ultra hold, which holds without sewing, but then just do maybe a running stitch inside the edges just to add a bit of decoration. I don't want it to be, yeah, over sewn. I think what I'm going to do is, oh, isn't that a lovely colour? Oh, maybe I should use the back of that. Oh, yeah, except I want the centre of the flower to be definitely different from the petals. Yeah. I'm going to start by cutting out, and I seem to have mislaid my scissors. I think what I'm going to do is I will cut a square out of that and then fuse it onto the back of this and then draw the circle and then cut it so I get a nice accurate shape. It's going to get this switched back on. You need a medium heat, no steam for this stuff. So that's on the way. So yeah, a little bit on there. And then, I'm not sure how big these petals are going to be. But this is just going to be a freehanding kind of thing. Alright, don't need to put this on the back. Kind of like that this didn't dye evenly. And the bottle, interestingly, says to leave it soak 30 minutes. I only left it for about 10. Okay, so I think I'll do just the bottom of the leg on that one. And then for this piece, I need kind of a longer, skinnier bit because the shape of this. As you can see, I'm living up to my slapdash name today. All right. Yeah, I've just got to be careful not to fuse this to my little ironing pad, which is looking pretty gross these days, isn't it? I think that's good. Use my friction pen. Now, do I want a perfect circle? Do I not want a perfect circle? I don't think I do. I think we're just going to go for a hand-drawn. I'm going to have to let that cool off because the friction pen will disappear straight away if it stays warm. I don't know about you, but I always make such a mess when I'm sewing. Do you do that? Make a huge mess when you're sewing? So I know I've drawn it a certain size, but I'm going to cut it a bit bigger because I may need to adjust the size of it when I cut my petals. See, now the beauty of this is that you have an applique here where you can just peel the back off and iron it on. So simple. So let me see. Let's toss that behind me. Now I can actually place that on there and estimate the size of the petals I want. Let me think about this. So it'd be nice to tuck the ends of the petals in underneath the circular part, maybe. So if I just and draw that, that might work. The same here. And then do the other one over here. Let's see, how long is that? The length of my pen. So I want to come all the way over to here. And I should have gone further over. Of course, I don't have to allow anything for tucking under because the edges are going to be held perfectly by the heat and bond. So I don't need to fret about fraying. And anyway, even if it did fray, it's denim. It's a casual bag. That's 3. I was thinking 3 and 3, but you know what? I don't know if that's going to be enough. I did consider using my emerald dye to do some green denim as well, but change my mind. I just wanted to see how this worked out first. Oh, that's huge. Well, that's perfect. It covers up a ton of the bag. All right. I think what I'm going to have to do is move it down a bit because I don't want it getting caught in that top seam. It could definitely have 2 more petals, couldn't it? I like it. Now what you have to do is peel the backing off. All you have to do, she says. I should probably start peeling from the blunt end, just in case I make the fabric messy. All right, I think I'm going to fuse just this outer edge for a minute. And then once I get them all overlapped the way I want it, I can fuse the middles. I think what would be rather nice is to have, no, I was going to say pink thread, but no, maybe not pink thread, because it won't show up much. What's across the colour wheel from pink, red, green? Don't want to use green. Maybe yellow. I noticed these aren't actually fusing very well, so I'm upping the heat. I think because the denim is fairly thick compared to something like, say, a cotton, the heat needs to be a little hotter to get through the fabric. Okay, it is mostly sticking. Hopefully it won't struggle. I think probably I'll do a couple of rounds on this part and deliberately make it not land on top of previous line of stitching to make it look a bit more fun. So let's hope it works. I am pretty pleased with this. Just went around a couple of times around near the edge of the center and once around each petal, and I locked the stitches at the beginning and the end so they're not going to pull out. I only had one little hitch here because there was quite a bit of bulk on the back where there was a seam. So I am very happy with that so far. I'm going to put this aside because I've been working on it all afternoon and I am going to go take a break. So I will probably finish this tomorrow, which will be a few seconds for you. It's Sunday morning and this is the first thing on my to-do list for today. I have a list of things for my day, but this is my priority. Well, the first thing is going to be putting the straps on here, basting the straps on here, so that I can get them inserted. Just a case of finding the middle, measuring outwards and clipping them on. So I'm going to measure 3 inches out from the center. And I don't always do this exactly the same. Sometimes when I put the strap on, the handle, I guess it's a handle really, isn't it? Sometimes I will center it over the pin like that. Sometimes I'll put it a little further out with this edge on the pin. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Kind of depends on the size of the bag and how it looks. I think I'll go with measuring it, lining up with this pin here. Now, what I've been doing with some of my bags is I've been basting it with the raw edges matching. And you know what? By the time you've sewn the seam and top stitched, there's very little of the handle actually in the seam. It feels a little flimsy. So the last bag I did, I extended the strap a little bit. Good grief, Nicola. Decide on strap or handle and just use that one. So I've extended it over the top of the raw edge of the fabric. And that makes sure that it's going to be more incorporated in the seam and less likely to pull out. I got the clips, but I think I'll stick with the pins. All right, there's one. And when I've got a handle that is sewn, folded and sewn, I usually make sure that the slightly open edge is on the inside. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you're consistent, I think. Now about my flower, I'm kind of excited because I did a Google of fabric paints on denim. I was wondering whether I could maybe use my regular acrylic paint to embellish the center of this flower. And when I searched it, I found out there's something called Golden Heat Set Fabric Medium. And guess what? Michaels has it. And it was cheaper than buying it from Amazon. Now I am going to work tonight for a staff meeting. So if I were to get there a little bit early before the shop shuts, I could pick up a bottle of this stuff. It's not cheap, but I will get my staff discount off it. So I think I'm going to pick some up and try it out. I was really just thinking of maybe putting some white spots or something in the middle of here, or some sort of extra, right? Something extra. So with this heat set medium, I can paint on here and have it be permanent and not flake off. So as I say, I'm very excited about that. I'm just going to do a little bit of stitching within the seam allowance for this, just to hold it in place for the next step. For this step, I've changed out my thread again. I'm using a fairly understated blue for top and bottom so that it coordinates with my lining. Time to match up my lining pieces with my outers. I'll just take this moment to show you what I've done for a hump jumper for my walking foot. I was saying something in one of my other videos that my regular plastic hump jumper, it's got a weird angle to it, and it works great with a regular foot, but not with my walking foot because there's all that bulk at the back. So I just folded a piece of denim off one of the jeans and I stitched it, because otherwise if I was just using it unstitched, it just kept unfolding and then driving me crazy. So I just made this little piece of denim that is now perfect. So if I'm approaching a bulky seam on one of these bags, I can tuck this right behind the needle. So I'll get towards that lumpy bit, I'll raise the foot, I'll put that just behind the needle, lower the foot again, and it keeps the foot level as it's heading over the bulky seam. It doesn't really work in front of the foot because obviously I'd be sewing right over it, but it works perfectly behind the foot, and I'm really pleased with that idea. I sewed it up in my usual way, here to here and across there, there to there, here to here and here to here, and then a little bit here and leaving this open for turning. And as usual, I also went from a 3/8 of an inch seam to more of a 1/2 inch seam for the lining, just so that it sits inside nicely. Now all I have to do is squash my corners and sew across them. Seeing as I've been going with seam allowances pressed open on this bag, I'll do it with this one as well. Actually, you know what? I won't, because it's so much easier to nest the seams if you put both of them going one way on there and both of them going one way on there. I'm glad I did it for the rest of the denim seams, but I don't really need to do that on here. And then when I do the other side of this, I make sure this is facing the same way. Push that way, push that way. Feels like I'm on the home straight now. So many of my pins are getting bent. I might have to treat myself to a new set one of these days. Interesting, a sewing needle, a machine sewing needle. When I've been finding those in my pins, I've been putting them in a little pin cushion that my friend gave me. There's quite a few of them in there now. I'll have to squint at them and see what they are. Maybe put them back where they belong, because otherwise they're getting all mixed up in there. Luckily, the Schmetz ones are color-coded, and so you don't need to figure out what size is engraved on them so much as just figure out what kind they are, like a Microtex or a jeans or a universal. And mostly I use Schmetz. And one thing I did notice when I cut my corners off is that I was very close to a seam in my piecing. So it's going to be a little bit of a weirdness there. Hopefully it will look all right when it's sewn. It's finished and I love it. Here we are, all done. I think it's gorgeous, and I might yet do a little bit of embellishment with a little bit of paint. I don't want to ruin it though. I'm not very confident with paint, and I don't want to spoil it, but I think it would look kind of fun with some maybe yellow dots. I could possibly make some dots with the end of a pencil. I don't have any pencils right here, but you know the pencils with the erasers on the end. And I've used that method on my little toilet paper tube birds, where I wanted a nice round circle for the eye. So I just dip it in the paint and blob it on. And I just thought maybe that would be fun on here in the center of my flower. And maybe I could just do it yellow to go with the yellow stitching. And I think that would be pretty. So I think I'm definitely going to buy some of that golden fabric medium tonight before the meeting starts, the staff meeting, because I'm very excited about trying that out. I have the iron heating. I noticed that as I was turning it out, these little points here are not all fused down as well as I would like. So I'm just going to apply a little bit more heat to it. And you know, if I wanted to go all out with these bags, like I've put a lot of time into this one, it's going to be donated, but if I wanted to just go the extra mile, I could have put a slip pocket in here. I could have used a denim pocket, or I could have just sewn one from that lining fabric. I could have put one of my purple pockets. Where are they? I did consider putting one of my purple pockets on the back. Obviously, I would have neatened this off with pinking shears and then sewn around the pocket, like I did with that last bag. But I think I'm going to stick with this because it's had enough attention. And I like the way the seams from some of the jeans legs are featured on there and on the front. But the flower is really the star, isn't it? It really is. I'm going to put my ironing pad off to the side, but I think this is thick enough. I can apply a little bit of heat to it just to make sure it's stuck. Before I do that, I'm just going to finish up here. But before I do, I want to show you the granny wrap that I finished last night because I stayed up late to finish it. Give me 1 second. So it turned out it used about 500 grams of yarn. And I had my yarn in one of my lovely crocheted basket bags, which I love. So yes, this is the fabric, the yarn, not the fabric. Yarn Smiths Create Super Chunky from woolwarehouse.co.uk. And this is all I have left. About 100 grams of miscellaneous bits. So if you've got any ideas as to what I can do with 100 grams of random colours, oh, maybe I should make a beanie to match my shawl. There's an idea. It's lovely to work with. It's very soft, very squishy, and so is my shawl. I'm going to keep my iron well away from this because I don't want to singe the acrylic. Here we are. Done, done, done. I ended up finishing with 3 rows of the dark denim. No, actually, it's not called dark denim. I think it's called Deep Ocean. My apologies. And once I had sewn in all my ends across the top, because of course that's where you change colour for each row, I did a single crochet row across the top. I worked 2 stitches into each double along the end there, along the edge, because I thought it looked a bit messy. And then I tried it on. Now, most of the time when I have something like a triangular wrap, I like to put it on kind of backwards. So I put the point at the front, push it around my neck, and then bring the points to the front. Well, because this is not as big as I would have liked, because I ran out of yarn, the points only just meet, and I have a feeling it would be falling off all the time. So I added a little bit of chain. I just did 18 chains with doubled yarn and just knotted the ends. So it's perfect now, because when I wrap it round, I can tie these in a little bow underneath the big point. You can't see it, but it stays on. And it's so warm. And you know what? It's been pretty cool here the last week. Last week we had some really high temperatures, like 28 to 30 degrees. This week has been a lot cooler. And of course, because it's a long weekend, the weather knows that it needs to throw some cooler temperatures and maybe even some rain our way. I think we actually got a bit of hail yesterday. My son had washed his duvet, put it outside on the clothesline, and then he ran outside to get it a little bit later because it was raining, but it actually had what looked like hail on it. And I like the cooler weather, especially when you're trying to make something like this and you don't want to die of heat underneath it. So I'm excited about that. That only took me 3 days to make. If I had had more yarn, I'd have been happy to spend longer on it and make something even bigger. That makes me think about the yarn I have up there. I have a couple of Karen anniversary cakes up there, which are 1,000 grams each. Ta-da! And one of these would make an awesome granny wrap. These are, in theory, Christmas colours. This one's called Merry Maximus. And it has green, blue, gingerbread, red. Oh, a rather lovely sort of greyed out purple. It's certainly a very interesting colourway. And I don't think necessarily it screams Christmas. But you know what? Now I want to make another granny wrap with one of these. I didn't have a specific plan for this, but if later I decide I want to make a sweater with one of these, you only need one because they're so big. So that's that. Let's just get all of that yarn well out of the way. I'm just going to do a little bit of a press of my points on my bag and we're all done. So that was a long video. Thanks for spending it with me. I hope you enjoyed watching me make yet more denim bags. And yeah, we'll see what happens. If I decide to add paint to this bag, I will show it to you again next time, or I will post a picture on Instagram with it with the paint on. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to be giving these bags to Dress for Success. Probably not in the next week. If I still own it this time next week, I will include it in the next vlog, or I will just take a picture and show you the photograph in the next vlog and on social media. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time with something else that's fun. Bye for now.